factors of operations in good governance, which is state. It is creating a favorable political, legal, and economic environment. The second one is civil society. It is mobilizing people participations. And the last one is market, creating of opportunity for people. Now let's proceed to management and governance. So management deals with daily operations while governance is about the underlying of a corporate. 8. Stockholders in governance, which the first one is judiciary, the second one is media, third is political parties, fourth legislature, 5 executive, 6 social organization, 7 private sector, and the last one is
Number 8. Civil society is comprised of groups or organizations working in the interest of the citizens but operating outside of the governmental and for-profit sectors. Organizations and institutions that make up civil society include labor unions, non-profit organizations, churches, and other service agencies that provide an important service to society but generally ask for very little in return. In good governance, we have 4 components. Number 1, legitimacy, the conformity to the rule of law. And the number 2, accountability, answerability, blameworthiness, and liability, and the expectation of account giving. Number 3, competence. The competence, this is the quality or state of have sufficient knowledge, judgment, skill, or strength. And number 4, respect for law and protection of human rights. In good governance, we have 8 principles, which is the rule of law, the fair impartial full protection. The number 2 is transparency. The rule should be clear access. And the number 3, responsiveness. Respond to timely manner needs of people in crisis. Number 3, consensus oriented. Must consult with people to understand the interest needs of the people. The number 5. Number 5, equity and inclusiveness. Opportunity to generally improve the well-being of all citizens. And the number 6, effectiveness and efficiency. There should not be a waste of resources, human, technology, and natural and environmental. And the number 6, the accountability. Accountable for what should be documented in the policy statement. And then lastly, the number 8, participation. Directly through legitimate representatives. We have 4 signs of poor governance. Number 1 is priorities inconsistent with development. And then number 2 is the failure to establish the rule of law. The number 3, excessive regulations. And then number 4, failure to distinguish between public and private interest. Poor management can affect governance. Weak governance undermines the financial and operational performance of a corporation. And the number 2, weak governance affects the investors' faith in the company.
What is corporate governance. Corporate governance is the structures of rules, practices, and processes used to direct and manage a company. A company's board of directors is the primary force influencing corporate governance. It is a system of direction and control that dictates how a board of directors governs and oversees a company. A lack of effective corporate governance at the executive and management level can lead to bad business decisions, which can lower the overall value of a company and make it more difficult for business to meet its financial obligations. Now, what are the needs of for corporate governance? First is enriches company performance, sustainability, promote the trust of investors, better firm assessment, judgment, and share performance, lessen the risk of corporate and financial crash and crisis and scandals, upholds corporate integrity and manage the risk of corporate fraud, battling against management misconduct and corruption. Good corporate governance has a positive link to economic development. Corporate governance enhances the legal framework. Now, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development of OECD principles of corporate governance. First is ensuring the basis of an effective corporate governance framework. Second is the rights of shareholders in corporate functions. Third is the equitable treatment of shareholders. Fourth is disclosure and transparency. Fifth is the responsibility of the board. Sixth is the role of the stakeholders in corporate
governance. The control environment, transparent disclosure, well-defined shareholders' rights, and good board practices and commitment.
Four fundamental pillars of corporate governance. First, accountability. Ensure the management is accountable to the board. Number 2, transparency. Ensure timely, accurate disclosure on all materials matter, including financial statement, performance, ownership, and corporate governance. Number 3, fairness. Protect shareholders' rights. Number 4, independence. Procedure and structure are in place to minimize or avoid conflict of interest.
Theories of good governance is the agent theory, stakeholder theory, stewardship theory, and the resource dependency theory.
Agency theory is also known as the principal agent theory, the focus of which was it affect contemporary corporation is to strike a balance to harmonize the opposing concern of the principal and agent. Stakeholder theory. Dr. Edward Freeman's stakeholders theory claims that a firm's stakeholders embrace just about anyone affected by business and its ventures. And stewardship theory is a theory that administration left at their own direction will most likely act as responsible stewards of the assets they control. And the last is resource dependency theories. Suggests that performers different resources will pursue to corroborate affiliation with is to say to be dependent upon other to acquire the required resources. And we have a corporate governance scope and core, which is the continuing challenge for both academician and student is to make theories and sound concept relevant to actual world situation. In order to address this concern in the coverage of about topic, the authors have incorporated the process of linking theory with practice, which is envisioned to benefit the student and the following manners. And now we have a scope of corporate governance. Some consideration corporate governance as a regulatory necessity, others, however, view us as a cornerstone in running an efficient and ethically responsible organization. Whichever views one embrace, corporate governance and its ramification cover a very broad in scope. And now we have 8 terms of scope in corporate governance. First is shareholders, and second is board of directors, management, and third is market intermediaries, and fourth is finance market, and fifth is contractual stakeholder suppliers, and six is government entities, and seven is customer and suppliers, and the last is media and society.